under two presidents.
When it came to the transition of power from Kim Il-sung to Kim Jong-il, it was justified by the bloodline of Mount Paektu. In other words, in the minds of North Koreans, a person cannot serve as leader unless he has the blood of Paektu in him.
All dynastic power requires a founding myth.
Kim Jong-il's leadership of Korea.
The Kim family found theirs in Korean tradition and the beautiful setting of Mount Paektu.
Mount Paektu, the mountain that shines with the history of the Korean Revolution, tells the great history of the leadership of Korea by Kim Il-sung, President of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, as the days go by.
Propaganda did the rest, highlighting the Kim's family connection to the sacred site.
Climbing back to the sacred revolutionary mountain, Kim Il-sung said with deep emotion, "Whenever I climb Mount Paektu, I think of Comrade Kim Jong-il. Mount Paektu is his birthplace and the cradle where he nurtured his courage. Mount Paektu is Kim Jong-il's mountain at the same time as being Kim Il-sung's mountain."
It is the cradle of the Korean civilization. So the Kim dynasty has appropriated, taken over the symbol of Mount Paektu and justifies its despotic rule by propagating the lie, the myth, that the family is sacred, they are saviors of the Korean people, and are destined to liberate South Korea, which North Korea claims is a colony of the United States.
As the third leader of the dynasty, Kim Jong-un has kept up the myth of Mount Paektu, adding a touch of modernity. He's been pictured riding on horseback up the snowy mountain with his wife at his side. Above all, he's carefully cultivated a physical resemblance to his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. Kim Jong-un has reenacted classic scenes familiar to all North Koreans. Propaganda efforts have included visiting the wooden hut where his grandfather lived during the anti-Japanese resistance period. According to legend, it's also where his father, Kim Jong-il, was conceived.
The Kims, in trying to extend this hereditary succession, they rely quite a bit on their traditions. I mean, it's endlessly fascinating. And I have so many books that show pictures of Kim Il-sung when he was younger. And if you can compare them side by side with pictures of Kim Jong-un today, and they are exactly trying to replicate pictures of Kim Il-sung that the North Koreans are familiar with.
The mother of Kim Jong-un and his sister Kim Yo-jong was the great love and favorite companion of their father, Kim Jong-il. Ko Young-hee was a former dancer. She too became the subject of a cult of personality. Propaganda would always portray her as the respected mother, the most faithful and loyal subject of the dear leader and supreme commander. Ko Young-hee and Kim Jong-il had 3 children. The eldest, Kim Yong-chol, was not considered strong enough to succeed his father, and so Kim Jong-un was chosen. The close relationship between Kim Jong-un and his sister goes back to their school days in Switzerland, far from their parents and the isolated inner circle of power. Chong Song-chang is an expert on the Kim family. He was also an advisor to former South Korean President Moon Jae-in.
Kim Jong-un lived in Switzerland for 4 years, from the summer of 1996 to the beginning of 2001. So he experienced capitalism firsthand, and his sister, Kim Yo-jong, was with him in Switzerland. They went to Disneyland together and traveled around Europe. Kim Yo-jong and Kim Jong-un have experienced a lot together.
경험을 공유하고 있다고 할 수가 있습니다.
The close relationship probably developed here, in the Swiss capital, Bern. This is where North Korea set up its largest diplomatic mission in Europe, run by a close confidant of the Kim family. The elegant embassy is in the diplomatic district. North Korean activity is of great interest to Swiss intelligence officials, who keep a close eye on things. This report reveals that the embassy acquired several apartments in the quiet neighborhood of Liebefeld. The apartments are in this building. Authorities confirm that an entire community of North Koreans live here, including drivers and a cook, led by family members of the North Korean dictator. Swiss intelligence officials say North Korea has prepared a base here in case the regime is ever toppled. But in the mid-1990s, it was clear that the Liebefeld community had a very different purpose. 2 children arrived from Pyongyang with a woman claiming to be their mother. Their surname was supposedly Pak. For a while, the children attended a local school. Then one day, the Pak family simply disappeared. The children, by then teenagers, returned to Pyongyang. Shortly afterward, the couple who had pretended to be their parents applied for political asylum at the US Embassy. It was later revealed that they were the aunt and uncle of Kim Yo-jong and Kim Jong-un. They now live in exile near Washington. The Kim family is complex. As well as the 2 boys and a girl born to mother Ko Young-hee, there was also an elder half-brother, Kim Jong-nam. He was not considered for succession.
No?
Kim Jong-nam went to live abroad, distancing himself from the family dynasty. He became a problem for the regime. On February 13, 2017, Kim Jong-nam was at the Kuala Lumpur airport in Malaysia. In full view of surveillance cameras, he was approached by 2 women who covered his face with a cloth containing poison. Kim Jong-nam died minutes later. When arrested, the young women said they thought they were taking part in a TV game show. There's no proof of direct involvement by Pyongyang, but there's little doubt.
One of the great sources of power or instruments of oppression in the North Korean political system is terrorizing the people, not only ordinary folks, but party members.
This was not the first display of the North Korean leader's ruthlessness. Jang Song-taek, Kim Jong-un's powerful uncle, had been a mentor to the young leader early in his reign. He was arrested on December 9, 2013, and executed 3 days later. He was accused of corruption and engaging in extramarital affairs.
It's not just a medieval, bizarre dynasty, monarchy, run by Kim Jong-un, of course, yes, but with his sister by his side, as if she were a co-criminal.
By sealing themselves off, Kim Jong-un and his younger sister cemented their position within the state and the party. The bond of trust between the siblings helped them shore up their power. As advisor to several South Korean presidents, Moon Chung-in has been involved in all phases of dialogue between North and South.
Kim Jong-un found it difficult to oversee everything, so he divided tasks up. He delegated the things he thought were appropriate to his sister, Kim Yo-jong. She's not exactly co-dictator. She plays more of a supporting role.
부상으로 보는 게 더 정확하지 않을까 생각합니다.
Kim Yo-jong made her first appearance on the world stage in February of 2018 during the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea.
Mesdames et messieurs, merci d'accueillir le président de la République de Corée, Moon Jae-in, et le président du Comité international olympique.
In an extraordinary Olympic moment, the two Koreas put aside their hostilities.
And an important moment in Olympic history as the North and South Korean athletes enter as one team onto the flag of the Korean Peninsula.
The North Korean delegation was led by a veteran and high-ranking official, Kim Yong-nam. But the real sensation was the presence of Kim Yo-jong. It was the first time a member of the ruling family had set foot in South Korea since the peninsula was divided in 1945. All eyes were on the supreme leader's sister. At the opening ceremony, she was sitting just behind Mike Pence, the U.S. Vice President. When the American athletes passed by, the North Korean delegation gave them an icy reception. Pence later said he was careful not to make eye contact with the young woman. After all, she was representing a country with whom the U.S. was still officially at war. John Bolton, U.S. National Security Advisor at the time, approves of Pence's position.
I think Vice President Pence did the right thing in avoiding contact. I don't think there was any purpose to be served by it. This is an authoritarian regime that runs a 25 million person prison camp in North Korea. So I think the Vice President actually was pursuing the right course of action there, and it was a real distinction of how he saw things, I think, from how President Trump saw things.
According to John Bolton, the whole thing had been orchestrated by South Korean President Moon Jae-in. Moon wanted a détente with the North and tried to force the Americans' hand by orchestrating a meeting in the stands at the Olympic Games.
President Moon Jae-in wanted to have discussions between North Korea and the U.S. on the nuclear program. He was very much a sunshine policy advocate in one of its variations. And people speculated about exactly what the sister's role was because we didn't really know.
That's a ridiculous interpretation of the events. Our administration made comprehensive attempts to better diplomatic relations and to make the Olympics a success.
어떻게 하면 성공한 올림픽으로 만들 수 있는가?
Had tensions risen during the Olympics, it would have been considered a failure. So President Moon proposed what came to be known as the Olympic Peace.
어떤 아이디어를 내걸었느냐면 올림픽 피스라고 하는 구상을 꺼냈습니다.
Kim Yo-jong's visit did not stop with the opening of the Olympic Games. It also had a political dimension. As soon as she arrived at Seoul's International Airport, the leader's sister electrified South Korea.
When it was announced, when North Korea announced that Kim Jong-un's sister would visit South Korea with all of 48 hours advance notification, there was great excitement throughout South Korea. Wow, the princess is coming. Kim Jong-un's own baby sister, little sister, is visiting South Korea. This must be serious. Kim Jong-un must be serious about peace, reconciliation, and denuclearization. At last, peace is near.
The North Koreans were warmly received by the South Korean unification minister. Officially, veteran official Kim Yong-nam was head of the North Korean delegation. But it was Kim Yo-jong's presence that really left an impression.
So Kim Yo-jong came and she held her chin up slightly at the airport in South Korea. She knew cameras were everywhere and reporters were filming her, trying to follow her every move. She wore a smile, slightly imperious, I would say, but she held her head straight. When she was received in the VIP room, as she entered the room, just looked at 2 or 3 different spots like this. She did not turn her head. She did not look excited. She looked as if she were in charge. And all this comes from training.
It was a historic moment when this daughter of the Kim family arrived at the Blue House, the South Korean presidential palace in Seoul. This extraordinary development was followed live by the South Korean public. The delegation received a warm welcome from President Moon Jae-in, who wanted to finally improve relations with South Korea's brothers and sisters in the north. The impression of a rapprochement was strengthened when fans cheered on a symbolic joint Korean team at an ice hockey match against Switzerland. Everything was done to create a feeling of reconciliation. Both sides played along.
I think the reason why Kim Jong-un sent his younger sister to Seoul was because he wanted to hear what South Korea was really like. It would be difficult for North Korean officials to go to South Korea and report back honestly to Kim Jong-un. If they went to South Korea and saw something positive and told Kim Jong-un, it could be perceived as admiration or even envy towards the South. But Kim Jong-un wanted to understand South Korea as it was. So you can see why he sent Kim Yo-jong, who could tell her brother openly about everything she saw.
The South Korean press covered Kim Yo-jong like a pop star. The media heaped praise on the young woman for not committing any faux pas while under such close scrutiny. Meanwhile, South Korean leaders tried to get a sense of the personality of this envoy from Pyongyang. They could see she was going to play an increasingly important political role.
I was able to observe Kim Yo-jong at close quarters. She was very quiet. She was afraid of making a mistake. Even though she didn't speak much, I felt that she had a lot of authority for someone her age. She was used to being treated as a high-ranking person. But I couldn't see behind her mask. She tried to hide her personality as much as possible. It was as though she wanted to remain mysterious.
The charm offensive worked. Every South Korean television program was giving its take on the visit, down to comparing the handbag of Hyung Sung-wol, a famous North Korean singer, with the one carried by Kim Yo-jong. Commentators concluded that the North Korean singer's designer accessories were worth a fortune.
악어 가죽이고 그리고 시가가 정가가 2,500만 원이 저 조그만 게 2,500만 원 이러면 김여정이 들고 다니는 저 가방에 대해서는
Kim Yo-jong, meanwhile, played the down-to-earth diplomat. If North Korea had wanted to make the South forget that it was being threatened by nuclear weapons, it couldn't have done it any better.
22시 40분경 평양 국제 비행장에 착륙했습니다.
The return to Pyongyang was triumphant. The delegation to South Korea had accomplished its mission, and Kim Yo-jong, still a relative newcomer, was once again expected to follow protocol. That is, to step out of the spotlight. But the charm offensive in South Korea marked the beginning of her rise into the highest circles of power in Pyongyang.
당과 정부의 간부들인 김영철 동지, 양용석 동지, 리수령 동지, 리영호 동지와
The warming of relations was all the more remarkable because it followed a period of high tension over Pyongyang's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Just a few months before the diplomatic breakthrough, with its new focus on the North Korean economy, the political climate on the peninsula had been warlike. On September 3, 2017, North Korea conducted its 6th nuclear test. This news was gleefully announced on state television by Ri Chung-hee, a star news anchor who came out of retirement for the occasion.
대륙간 탄도 로켓 장착용 수소탄 시험에서 완전 성공. 조선노동당의 전략적 핵무력 건설 구상에 따라 우리의 핵 과학자들은 9월 3일 12시.
Days later, U.S. President Donald Trump delivered a rebuke at the United Nations, rare in its aggressive tone.
Now North Korea's reckless pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles threatens the entire world. The United States has great strength and patience. But if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States...
The exchanges between the young North Korean leader and the unpredictable U.S. president were vigorous and blunt. But there were more and more signs of easing tensions. Kim Jong-un now considered himself strong enough to start negotiating with Trump, the very man who had threatened to destroy him.
2017년 9월에 북한이 이제 6차 핵시험.
North Korea conducted its 6th nuclear test in 2017.
화성 14.
And on November 29th, it launched an intercontinental ballistic missile.
그리고 나서 이제
In the wake of these tests, Kim Jong-un declared that North Korea had completed its development of its nuclear program.
무장력을 갖췄다.
From that moment on, Pyongyang saw itself in a position of strength.
From position of strength. 우리는 핵무기를 가진 강한 국가다. 우리는 대화 용의가 있다.
We possess nuclear weapons. We are a powerful nation. So long as you don't attack us first, we're willing to talk, and we can talk about everything. That was their message. It's been Pyongyang's regular strategy for a long time. They negotiate for peace while simultaneously going on the offensive.
평화지향적인 요 이중적인 태도.
But relaying that message to Washington meant going through Seoul. The North used Kim Yo-jong's visit to South Korea to launch the new initiative. Kim Yo-jong handed the South Korean president a personal letter from her brother, inviting him for a meeting. After the success of Kim Yo-jong's visit to Seoul, the next visit in the easing of tensions took place here, in the demilitarized zone on the 38th parallel. This border area between the two Koreas is a legacy of the Korean War, which took place between 1950 and 1953. The conflict ended with an armistice, but no peace treaty was ever signed. This is Panmunjom, once a village and now the site of the only crossing between the two countries. Despite being in the demilitarized zone, it's one of the most militarized places in the world. On April 27, 2018, Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in staged a symbolic meeting here. It came barely 2 months after Kim Yo-jong's mission to Seoul. She was also present for this historic meeting, this time in a supporting role. The two Korean leaders shook hands across the unremarkable concrete strip that separates their countries. In this conflict, there is no stronger symbol than this place, marked by the indelible memory of war. Legitimized by her role as her brother's confidant, Kim Yo-jong was omnipresent on North Korean state television. She collected the flowers offered by children, made sure protocol was followed to the letter, and even took notes during talks. The delegation was visibly under her spell. And back in Seoul, a government spokesman spoke warmly about it.
문 대통령은 배석한 김여정 부부장을 가리키며 김 부부장은 남쪽에서는 아주 스타가 되었다라고 말했고 큰 웃음이 있었습니다. 김여정 위원장 부부장도 얼굴이 빨개졌습니다.
저 김여정 부부장에 대한 인상은
My impression of Kim Yo-jong was positive.
우선 첫째 상당히
At first glance, she seemed incredibly respectful, efficient, and sincere.
그리고 상당히 그 상냥한 그런 젊은 여성으로 저는 강한 인상을.
This young woman made a strong impression on me.
나서서
She wasn't flamboyant, but she expressed herself well anytime she was asked something, even though she herself never asked a question.
질문 같은 걸 받았을 때 답변을 하지만 본인이 먼저 질문을 하거나 그런 건 아니고.
The honeymoon period continued over the following months. Moon Jae-in went to Pyongyang, the North Korean capital, receiving a spectacular welcome. Once again, Kim Yo-jong was in the background, carefully making sure everything went according to plan. At the third North-South summit of the year, she was even allowed to greet the South Korean president personally. It turned out that this rapprochement between the two Koreas was a prelude to an even more surprising diplomatic breakthrough. US President Donald Trump agreed to meet Kim Jong-un in Singapore. It was a historic first, organized against the advice of hawks in his administration, like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and especially National Security Advisor John Bolton. Nearly 70 years after the end of the Korean War, Kim Jong-un received from Donald Trump something that previous US presidents had consistently denied his father and grandfather: recognition.
President, how's it going so far, sir? Very good. What do you think? Very, very good. Excellent relationship. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was an astonishing political victory. In Singapore, Donald Trump enjoyed the company of the young North Korean leader, the man whose country Trump had threatened to destroy in his speech at the UN not 1 year earlier. Despite their many differences, like age, way of life, political outlook, and style, the two men clearly got along well together. The two leaders signed a joint statement.
So we're signing a very important document.
In vague terms, it mentioned the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Kim Yo-jong was placed on the same level as the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. She was a discreet yet capable presence at her brother's side. These images were sure to have further legitimized her in the eyes of the North Korean public.
Thank you very much. It's fantastic.
In the presence of her brother, Kim Yo-jong, the star during her visit to South Korea, retreated into the background. The Kim family hierarchy dictates the regime's power structure.
I don't think any of us could have told that she was his sister unless we had seen pictures and knew who she was. She behaved like a staff person, and there was no indication of a family relationship.
Only Kim Jong-un spoke for North Korea, even at the most informal occasions, such as dinners the two delegations had together.
She was at a lunch that we had the day of the negotiations. It was not really a business lunch. It was more informal, but I don't remember her saying anything during the course of the lunch. I'm not sure I remember anybody on the North Korean side other than Kim Jong-un saying anything at the lunch.
So when the supreme leader is present at an official meeting, his officials visibly are in fear of displeasing the supreme leader. Kim Yo-jong is not afraid of her brother, but in an important public event, Kim Yo-jong would be out of place to speak, unless Kim Jong-un asks her to speak.
The goodwill of the Singapore summit didn't last long. There were 2 more meetings between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un in February 2019 in Hanoi, and the following June in Panmunjom, on the line of demarcation between the 2 Koreas. But the diplomatic process was at an impasse. There was no agreement on denuclearization. No new agreement was signed in Hanoi after Trump's advisors persuaded him not to do so. The period of rapprochement seemed to be over.
Stepping across that line was a great honor. A lot of progress has been made. A lot of friendships have been made, and this has been in particular a great friendship. So I just want to thank you. That was very quick notice, and I want to thank you.
Trump had dreamed of diplomatic success, but as was the case for his predecessors, these hopes were dashed by the problem of nuclear weapons.
Each administration believed that they could negotiate some kind of deal with North Korea that would be acceptable to both sides, that would involve North Korea giving up its nuclear weapons program, and they were wrong every single time. North Korea has made multiple commitments in writing to give up its nuclear weapons program, but it never quite gets around to it.
Because diplomacy had failed, military tensions mounted once again. North Korea resumed testing ballistic missiles, staging no fewer than 21 launches in 2019, a pace that the country sustained over the following years. Once again, North Korea returned to demonstrations of force in its bid to be taken seriously. Kim Yo-jong's role also changed. As she climbed the ranks of the party and the power hierarchy, her rhetoric became more confrontational. In 2018, she had charmed South Korea at the opening of the Winter Olympics. 2 years later, she vowed an apocalypse and the destruction of the imperialists and their lackeys, meaning the US and South Korea.
It does leave Kim Jong-un with the ability to hold down the fort at home. And also, when she is attributed to these extremely harsh statements against South Korea and the United States, it still leaves him above the fray.
At the center of the policy shift was the Inter-Korean Liaison Office, established in the North Korean border city of Kaesong. The new building, paid for by South Korea, was inaugurated in September of 2018 amid hopes for warmer relations. The building didn't even last a year. On June 16, 2019, North Korea blew it up, broadcasting these images to the world. Kim Yo-jong was at the forefront of these new hostilities. She called the South Korean president crazy, the very same president with whom she had initiated a détente the year before. The renewed tensions were triggered by actions from a group of dissidents who had fled to the south. The activists sent balloons across the border loaded with leaflets. Kim Yo-jong's words were no doubt part of the North's careful construction of her image. But people in the South, who had believed in the fairy tale of the charming princess from Pyongyang, were in shock.
She ordered the bombing of the Inter-Korean Liaison Office, which really damaged her reputation. In South Korean society, Kim Yo-jong is now seen in both a positive and a negative light. You could say she represents a mixture of expectation and disappointment.
The tone was now set. In Pyongyang, it was Kim Yo-jong who led the charge against the South Koreans and the United States, once again called the imperialist enemy. Time and again, she wrote aggressive declarations read on state television, signed using her official title, Deputy Department Director of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. Reverting to the traditional language of North Korean threats, she promised Americans a retaliation that will make you lose sleep. She responds to South Korea's offer of economic aid in exchange for denuclearization with the words, "Nobody barters their destiny for a bit of corn." In August of 2021, Seoul reacted to the mounting tensions by announcing that it would resume joint military exercises with the United States. They had been suspended during the period of warming relations. Kim Yo-jong's response was swift and bitter. She declared that the Korean peninsula would never see peace as long as American troops remained in South Korea. Just a few years after her visit to Seoul, she added a personal message that she deeply regretted what she called the South Korean authorities' deceitful behavior. The rupture was now complete. Kim Yo-jong's words were a demand to the world that North Korea be seen and taken seriously as a nuclear power. For years, the international community had worked in vain towards denuclearizing the country, a goal that experts have since all but abandoned.
When you have a country like North Korea determined to get nuclear weapons, you can negotiate forever, and you're never going to get them to give the weapons up.
Was there a time in the past when denuclearization of North Korea was possible? I don't know. Nobody can answer that. I mean, Kim Jong-un would have to have his head examined if he were really willing to relinquish his nuclear arsenal after his predecessors, his father and grandfather, have spent half a century in building them. And of course, Kim Jong-un's legitimacy internally comes to a great extent from his decade-long legacy of having much further advanced his nation's nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities. Real denuclearization of North Korea is today an impossibility.
Even so, Washington is not prepared to grant North Korea the status of nuclear power. The strategic consequences would be immense, because South Korea, or even Japan, might then try to acquire nuclear weapons of their own. The climate of confrontation has allowed Pyongyang to justify its economic policies and exert absolute control over the population. It's also allowed Kim Yo-jong to present herself as an indispensable figure for the country, both in times of peace and conflict.
The North Koreans are trying to paint Kim Yo-jong as this fearsome, strong, bold, sometimes threatening, sometimes charming political figure. But is she ready to step into a bigger role? She still looks like that young woman who understands that she has a role to play, perhaps has those ambitions, but still has a ways to go politically in terms of that confidence and that sense of authority.
At the podium, Kim Yo-jong demonstrates what skills she already has honed over the years. Her rhetoric is that of an uncompromising leader.
기국의식입니다. 우리들은 사상전선을 지켜선 남다른 사명과 그 어느 때보다 무거운 책임감을 안고 전체 인민을 투철한 주석관과 계급적 원수들에 대한 비타협적인 투쟁 정신을 지닌 계급의 존입투사로 무자비한 복수자로 준비시키며 가슴마다에 만장약된 복수와 징벌의 의지가 그대로 일터와 처소마다에서 단결정 반출을 위한 혁혁한 성과로 이어지도록 사상사업의 화력을 더욱 두세게 들이대겠습니다.
But just how far can she go? Could Kim Yo-jong one day rule North Korea? It's conceivable that she could succeed her brother, especially given the persistent rumors about his significant health problems. And that's because she is, above all, a Kim, descended from the mythical bloodline of Mount Paektu.
만약에 김정은에게
Were Kim Jong-un unable to continue ruling North Korea because of ill health, it's very likely that Kim Yo-jong would take his place.
가능성이 매우 높습니다.
In this society, Kim Yo-jong, the daughter of Kim Jong-il, has more authority than other officials.
다른 간부들보다 우월적인 지위를 갖고 있습니다.
Regardless of her official title, it's clear she is the second in command in North Korea.
현재 북한에서 그가 2인자라고 할 수가 있습니다.
This shift in patriarchal attitudes was underscored when Kim Jong-un presented one of his own daughters, 9-year-old Kim Ju-ae, to the public for the first time. The symbolically important move came during an intercontinental ballistic missile test in 2022, when the young girl in red shoes appeared beside her father. The scene was widely publicized by North Korean media. Regardless of who succeeds the present leader, the Kim family looks set to keep its grip on power. A decade has passed since the public first glimpsed Kim Jong-il's timid daughter. Since then, Kim Yo-jong has proven that she truly is a child of the Kim dynasty and North Korea's Red Princess.
The racing cyclists of Burundi are not afraid to take risks. Whoever wants to transport goods in Burundi does so by bike. Distances are short. Burundi is one of the smallest countries in Africa.
It's very dangerous and fatal for the cyclists to hold on to the trucks.
Burundi lies in the heart of Africa. The main traffic route winds itself from the Rwandan border down to Tanzania. The first section of the route leads from Kayanza to Bugurama. Burundi is poor, even though the land is fertile. On the northern plateau, mostly bananas are grown, dozens of different types. Bananas are the staple food in Burundi. At the outskirts of Kayansa, the biggest city in this region, the farmers sell them to middlemen. Twice a week, Pamphlet Nazagwe does his bulk buying here. He is a professional beer brewer, a banana beer brewer. Banana beer is Burundi's national drink. Tansien Manirakitsa is responsible for the transport. Farmer Pamphlet does not dare to cycle the loaded bike himself. Even if you're an experienced rider, you put your life at risk.
First I ask for the price. Then I buy 3 types, just 3. A sweet type of banana, a flowery one, and one that's less dear. Obviously, the mixture is important. The beer is supposed to be tasty.
I know nothing about brewing. That's why I'm a driver and I'm happy to be able to transport Pamphil's bananas. That's how I struggle along.
Whenever he is not transporting bananas, Tarsien offers rides on his bicycle taxi. Tarsien has loaded 8 clusters onto his bike. Together, they make up for 160 kilos. He has to transport them 15 kilometers. Luckily, the first part is downhill. Kilometers from his destination, there is a long ascent. Now Tarsien must really pedal. Tarsien is 22 years old. He never went to school.
Riding my bike is all I'm good at. I never did anything else. I don't even want to, except if I found less tiring work. I definitely don't want to be carrying anything on top of my head like the women do. It's exhausting to pedal, yes, but carrying things on my head, no way.
After 45 minutes, Tarsien reaches his destination, the Banana Beer Brewers Village. Burundi is one of the poorest countries in Africa. Owning a bike is worth a great deal here. But Tarsien must already support a wife and 2 kids in his early 20s.
How can I save money with a job like this? It's just about enough to sustain my family and myself, nothing more. Look, I can't even afford new trousers. I am no dreamer. This job holds no future whatsoever.
Pamphil has been brewing banana beer, umbubira, on the farm next to his house and is in for 15 years now. He lets the bananas ripen in a pit for another week. The farmer can only process the bananas if they have developed enough sweetness. Otherwise, the fermentation process might not take place properly. Bananas with a thick skin are especially well suited for producing banana beer. His own family and a few workers from the village assist Pamphil with the production.
What it is?
The workers use fresh, cleaned hay to help them squeeze out the liquid. The hay also creates Pamphil's banana beer's special flavor.
My life as a beer brewer is a good one, really. I make good money and I'm able to pay the workers' wages. I will never be rich, of course. I mean, we can't afford to buy new shoes and things like that. But I don't have to go around stealing things. The family has enough to eat and we can send the kids to school. Nobody tells me what to do and I don't need to go chasing after my money. I am my own master.
It's still only banana juice. To turn it into beer, the liquid has to be stored for a few days. The brewer's yeast allows for fermentation.
It takes 2 days for the beer to be right.
2 bottles of this and everything spins round.
But right now it's unfermented. It doesn't make you tipsy.
But the beer Pamphil serves in his inn does. He doesn't know the alcohol percentage. He never measured it. Bicycle courier Tarsian drinks only after the work has been done. Drunk driving, much too dangerous when you're on the road of the racing cyclists. Here in the north, not only bananas are grown, but also coffee, tea, and rice. The road leading to the banana beer brewers' village continues on, leading south. To Bujumbura, the capital city of Burundi, it's 100 kilometers, and it's up and down the hill the whole way. The road serves as a transit route between Rwanda and Tanzania. Antoine Kabura has been driving it for 10 years with his truck. Normally, he only drives during daytime. Driving at night would be too risky.
The roads are all right, but much too narrow, sometimes not even 6 meters wide. Oncoming traffic often poses problems. You must always avoid the potholes and these many bends. Luckily, I'm a good driver, but for a main road, it's definitely too narrow.
Antoine arrives at Gitega, the second largest city of Burundi, with 45,000 inhabitants. Alex Iradukunda works as a reporter for the local radio station, Humorisa. Her job is to report on the traffic, which primarily means the situation for the cyclists.
Tell me, what are the difficulties?
For us cyclists, the trucks are worse. They make life difficult for us.
I hear this over and over again. They complain about the trucks. It really is a tough and exhausting job. Not to mention the bike thieves. Their numbers are increasing. It's bad when the bike is gone. And don't forget the accidents and injuries.
Gitega, situated in the center of the country, used to be the capital of the Kingdom of Burundi. It was also the administrative center at the turn of the century, from the 19th to the 20th century, when Burundi was a German colony. Today, the city is an important traffic junction. "26 reporters work for Radio Humorisa. Alex is done with her report on the cyclists.
It's difficult for the cyclists here, even those just transporting other people. But for those who transport bulky goods, it's even more difficult. But they have no choice. Their wives and kids need something to eat.
Another 60 kilometers to Bujumbura, uphill, downhill. Antoine Kabura could drive faster, but he knows what's happening behind him, so he doesn't want to risk an accident. Whoever wants to save time and energy holds on to his truck. Antoine finds this really annoying.
What they are doing poses a lethal hazard, not only for them, but also for us truck drivers. I often have to abruptly dodge due to approaching traffic or because of a pothole. The cyclists that are holding on to the truck can't see it coming. They're surprised by it and crash. Terrible. I often see it in the rear mirror. Some die. I think they should stop it. It's prohibited too.
Eric Nitsitunga has been transporting bananas from the north to the capital for 5 years. He fixed 14 clusters to his carrier. That's about 250 kilos, a lot, even by Burundian standards.
I have to tie the bananas to the carrier in such a way that the center of gravity lies in the middle. One mistake, and I would lose my balance in the curves and crash. I also have to make sure that the bananas don't get bruised.
Even Eric can't resist the temptation to let himself be pulled up the hill. It doesn't always turn out well. Some road sections are unpaved, difficult to drive for the truck drivers. There are some drummers with their heavy instruments along the road near Gishora. Their destination is a nearby hill. It is considered the cradle of the Burundian art of drumming. They used to perform before the kings. Today, they play the drums for whoever pays and to preserve peace. Just a few years ago, Burundi saw the end of a long civil war. 74-year-old Antime Baranspekave is the leader of the Geshora Master Drummers.
I became a drummer because my ancestors were drummers. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father. They all drummed for the kings. This tradition must survive.
The police have been checking more often on the Burundi highway lately. A welcome opportunity for the street vendors to offer their products. A nuisance for the drivers. Security check. The horn, blinkers, and headlights.
I check the papers and inspect the vehicles. It's all about increasing safety on the road.
The officers also punish cyclists that hold onto trucks. Whoever gets caught must pay a fine. Eric, the courier, puts up with that.
I think the cyclists should really stop holding on to our trucks. Too many accidents happen because of it. It should be banned. The police should enforce it. Or the cyclists could fix a little engine to their bikes for going uphill.
Eric heard the policeman's whistle just in time to let go. The Burundi government has almost doubled the amount of traffic policemen over the last years. Too many accidents occur on the roads in Burundi, also due to technical defects. But the main problem are the racing cyclists.
More action should be taken against these cyclists holding on to trucks. It's simply too dangerous. It is prohibited, but they just won't respect us.
Another 40 kilometers to Bujumbura. The closer you get to the capital, the busier the narrow road becomes. The Kibira National Park, with its 400 square kilometers, runs along a small side road. Once the splendid mountain forest used to be the king's holy hunting grounds. The Batwa live in a small village close to the national park in Busikera. Up until a few years ago, the hunters and gatherers lived in the midst of the rainforest. In 2007, the government decided to transfer them to the area next to the main road. Viola Iduvimana is 40 years old and has 8 kids.
I was born and raised in the jungle. This life is not easy. We have to collect wood and have to fetch water from far away. That's exhausting. But I enjoy the pottery. I learned it when I was a kid, watching my mom work. Now I can sustain my family with my pottery. I'm teaching my kids how to do it too. That's why it's going so well for us here.
Next door, the men sit together and carve wood. They have lost their traditional hunting grounds since the resettlement. But being so close to the main road opens new opportunities for them and their families. They can now sell their carvings and pottery to travelers. About 500 people live in Busikera. More than half of them are children. Apart from their handicrafts, the Batva are farmers and breed cattle on the land they were granted by the government. The next stage on the cyclist road leads from Bugorama to the capital city, Bujumbura. Already early in the morning, the first cyclists are on their way to supply the markets. The Bugorama cyclists are famous throughout the whole country. They transport the heaviest and bulkiest goods and are the fastest riders. Bugorama, situated at the southern tip of the Kibera National Park, is a traffic junction. Two federal roads meet here and unify to lead to the capital of Burundia. Bicycle courier Eric lives near Bugorama. The bananas here are cheaper than in the capital. Today, one cluster cost 8,000 Burundian francs, about €4. Together with his girlfriend, Eric lives in a small house right on the road to Bujumbura. They have no children yet. They want to wait until Eric has found a less dangerous job. The 200-kilo load literally pushes Eric downhill. He quickly reaches speeds of up to 60 to 70 kilometers an hour. He can't apply the brakes. His tires would burst. If the roads are wet, you're likelier to slip. But since he can't apply the brakes, he must wait for the next descent. Until then, it's brace yourself and hope for the best. Nobody knows just how many accidents occur and how many cyclists are actually involved. There is no such thing as traffic statistics in Burundi. Often the poor condition of the bikes is responsible. The last ascent up to Bujumbura is tough. Without help, no one would manage to move forward. And so a new profession emerged, the pushing assistant. The men earn 10 cents for the 15-minute tour. At the end of the long ascent, a little shop offers food and beverages. Eric doesn't always have enough money to buy something for himself after this exhausting ascent. Lucia, the shop assistant, knows Eric and puts it on the tab if he can't pay. She feels for the cyclists.
This work takes up a lot of energy. You need to be really strong in order to do this, especially if you have to push the fully loaded bike uphill. Often it weighs more than 200 kilos, so you need lots of energy. That's why I eat mainly carbs, for example corn, and I drink hot milk every day.
From here to Bujumbura is another 15 kilometers, and it's only downhill. Eric trusts his steering abilities. He doesn't have much choice. He already had quite a few accidents, but up to now, he only suffered some bruises and bone fractures. Arrival in Bujumbura. The cyclists have to push their way through the traffic of this lively metropolis. The first shop Eric is delivering to lies at the far end of the city. There are many little shops and restaurants along the capital streets. Most of them can't afford professional advertising. That's why they hire artists like Clovis Milamwi. The 26-year-old makes a living of that.
En fait, normalement, moi, je suis un artiste peintre et je
I'm an artist.
ne fais pas.
But if people ask me, I'd also do ads for them.
Si on m'appelle de faire quelque chose sur mur, ça va.
I take between 100,000 and 150,000 Burundian francs for such a picture. It's not bad.
C'est ça en fait.
That would amount to the equivalent of 50 to 75 euros. Bujumbura is the largest city in Burundi. It is the economic center of the country. Around 400,000 people live here. It takes a very specific technique to park the bicycle in such a way that it doesn't fall down with a 200-kilo load on it. 5 times a week, Eric delivers 2 banana clusters to the little shop. For each cluster, he gets 12,000 Burundian francs. That's 6 euros, 2 euro of an income remain. Here in the heavy traffic of the city, the challenge for Eric is of a different kind compared to his cross-country ride. It's not about steep ascents, downhill racing, or the struggle with truck drivers and the police. The difficulty lies in maintaining the balance and being careful not to get hit by other vehicles, because then he'd fall. The Sioni market is in the northwest of the capital. 85 out of 100 Burundians work in agriculture, and they all try to sell their surplus on the markets. Since the main market in the city center burnt down in 2013, the number of traders and customers at the Sioni market has doubled. One of the reasons being the government banning the street trade. Everyone had to turn to the remaining markets. Alice Sindaye is 42 years old. She has been working as a market woman for 10 years now. When the main market burnt down, she not only lost both of her stands, but all her goods went up in flames too. she had to start again from scratch.
I have 4 kids and no husband. When the market burnt down and the hard times began, he just ran off. He never gave me any money to feed the kids and myself. I had to take out a credit loan. That helped us along, and I was able to build up a new stand here.
Eric delivers bananas to Alice as well. Today he is running late due to the rain. Normally he would get 15,000 Burundian francs for a cluster of bananas.
Would you lower the price a bit? I can only pay 10,000.
Today, Alice pays Eric €5 per cluster, which makes €1 an hour for Eric to keep. With the thousands of cyclists in Burundi, there is always something to repair or to patch. You'll find bicycle repair shops everywhere in Burundi, especially near the markets, where most cyclists deliver their goods. Alexandre Tassis has been the boss here for 5 years. Most bicycles in his shop come from China and break down easily.
These bikes are basically like all the others. We have to reinforce the carrier with iron bars. Good tires are important, though.
Bike courier Eric also comes here if he has enough money to afford new tires. The work is being done fast here, and he gets some good advice as well. Almost 100 mechanics work for Alexandre.
Some customers live nearby, but most of them come from far away. For example, from Gatumba or Burama. Some are foreigners coming from the Congo to have their bikes repaired here. They trust me.
Eric appears unruffled by the fact that he has to spend a portion of his narrow income in order to keep his bike in good shape.
It's very important to change tires. They were totally worn out. If there's rain like today, you can easily slip and fall. The tires burst more easily too, especially when you brake. I already patched the tube 4 times. It's just too dangerous.
Eric cycles back to Bugorama on new tires. The Burundi racing cyclists have divided up the district. There are those who cycle in from the north and go back in the evening. The others serve the southern route. The Burundi Highway runs along the banks of Lake Tanganyika for 200 kilometers heading south, right up to the Tanzanian border. Instead of bananas, people grow lots of oil palms here. They are being transported on bicycles as well. A bunch can weigh up to 50 kilos. The landscape in the south of Burundi is less hilly than in the north, so the bike couriers can travel greater distances, up to 100 kilometers per day.
If I don't have so much to carry, I enjoy my work. Like today, that's fine. I'm bringing the fruits to a palm oil factory. I then load the filled oil cans and take them to the market, where they're sold. The job is all right, so long as you hold the road well and don't have to worry about crashing in the curves. It's then I enjoy the work.
Faustin Dabazanye's palm grove is situated directly on the main road. Together with his son Patrick, he looks for ripe fruits, which he can later process in his palm oil factory, which is 10 kilometers away. Patrick is a gifted climber.
Even though we are next to the lake, the soil is dry and sandy, which is not good for the palms. They don't grow properly and bear little fruit. But we are lucky. Our soil contains many nutrients, in spite of the nearby lake. That's why our palms are so tall and strong, and the oil tastes well too.
Only when the fruits have taken on an orange-red color are they ripe for harvesting and are easy to pick. Patrick transports the crop from his father's palm oil grove to the oil factory himself. They have to be kept there for a few days before they can be processed to oil. Patrick much prefers climbing up the trees to carrying the heavy load on his bike.
I still go to school, and I only do this in my spare time to earn some money. Later, I want to take on a proper job, but right now I do both. Work as a bike courier and study.
Lake Tanganyika is the second largest lake in Africa. It shapes the landscape in southern Burundi. The riverbank is lined with little fishing villages along the road. Nyongabo slowly comes to life. At 6 a.m., the men returned from fishing. They spent the whole night out on the lake. Today, they didn't catch much. The waves were too high. For a few years now, they are only allowed to fish every second week in order to protect the fish stock. Cesar Salvatore has been a fisherman for 8 years now.
I believe the fishing restrictions are a good thing. It gives us fishermen a rest, and we get to spend more time with our families. And the fish can breed in those 7 days. That's a good thing.
After school, Patrick earns some extra money working as a bicycle courier. He doesn't have to sustain a family, so he feels less pressure. The bike courier has arrived at Faustin's palm oil factory. The production is in full process. The ripe fruits are loosened from the bunches and are cleaned, first of all. The oil manufacturer has meanwhile gotten used to the traffic and the ado on the adjacent road. Faustin has been in the palm oil business for 3 years now.
The oil palm means a lot to us. It always gives us oil, which we can use for cooking. We use the palm fronds as broomsticks. The remaining pips we use to make soap or shampoo. The fibers, also a byproduct, help to light a fire, and oil palm provides everything we humans need.
About 20 palm oil farmers have joined in a cooperative and operate the old squeezing machine together. Everyone can process his own fruit there. Faustin is checking the production flow. The water cools the machine so the oil doesn't go rancid. Twenty families make their living from this. Their existence, as well as the economy of the whole country, depends on the timely deliverance of fresh supplies.
In the heart of West Africa, people drive on roads which don't deserve to be called that. They're dusty dirt tracks which don't appear on any maps. They can only be traveled on with great effort and during a few months of the year. Risk is a passenger on every trip. In Mali's bushland, in the savannah of this West African country, there are few fully developed roads. The dirt tracks seem to make erratic lines on the parched plains. Most people here don't own a car. Minibuses, pickups and lorries commute between the villages. On market days, there is intense activity. Many traders and customers are on the road. Since the dirt tracks are unpredictable and the vehicles are in bad shape, each trip becomes an adventure. In the past few years, Abdoulaye Dombele has been driving for a transport entrepreneur. He's a focused driver because no one is immune to unwanted surprises on the dusty dirt tracks. Abdoulaye knows many of his passengers. In order to keep them happy, he talks to them. He wants them to feel that they are in safe hands.
Accidents happen all the time here. There are so many bends in our roads. God has blessed me with luck. Since I've been working, I've not had an accident yet, but cars keep tipping over. The roads are in bad condition. Not a month goes by when you don't hear of a car having tipped over. The drivers who are not from here, they just go too fast.
Abdoulaye's passengers are traders and merchants. They travel from market to sell their goods. They only take the minibus in the dry periods. When the rains come, they travel in boats. Cars would get bogged down in the mud and water.
We are done for when the water disappears between Jafarabe and Tenenko. Then there are a lot of potholes and the dust is awful. Now it's just torture. But that's the way it is. Whatever work you do, you can't run away from it. Only when God releases you, you can get away from it.
For about 7 months, between October and May, it's dry. Then it's high season for transports over land. As soon as the first rain comes, the region turns into one huge sheet of water. In central Mali, in the Massina region, the river Niger, one of the mightiest rivers in the world, floods large areas. The dirt tracks disappear. Only when the water retreats can the villages be reached by vehicle again. What is left is sand and dust. The dry, hot northeast wind from the Sahara, the Harmattan, brings even more dust. In March and April, the temperature soars to over 50 degrees. It's misty for weeks on end. Vehicles have trouble picking their way between broken earth and washed-out forts. It takes time for new dirt tracks to be created. The heat makes people short-tempered. An argument between the carriers who are loading up a truck. What's it about? Probably only the one who is most upset knows for sure. His co-workers hope that the racket won't last long. They prefer to preserve their strength. The work is strenuous. Countless bags of onions, dried fish, millet, spices and mangoes need to be loaded onto the lorries. They often weigh 30, 40 or more kilos. There is hardly anything that isn't taken on, be it an individual piece or a mass product. It's all a question of price, space and goodwill. To ensure that the lorries don't tip over, the heavy stuff goes at the bottom, into the middle if possible. Sekou Ndaye knows about the importance of correct loading. He and his colleague, Diadje Maiga, have been driving their lorry through the savannah half their lives. Although they are not blood-related, and each is his own boss, they feel like brothers. Togetherness in the bush and the challenges of the job have forged a bond over the years.
The routes are dangerous. At first, it seems easy to drive between the bushes and trees. But if you go fast, accidents are quick to happen, especially around bends. Traffic has increased. There are more mopeds, more cars, and more donkey carts driven by the villagers. If you think, I know the way, there are no potholes, and you drive fast, you can easily bump into a cart driver or a moped, or you crash into another car.
Next up after the goods are the animals. They travel together with their owners. To make sure nothing is lost during the trip, the load is secured with ropes, cords and straps. Diadje and Sekou are responsible for the transport. They have to make good for any loss or damage. The passengers are the last to come on board. How they get up there is up to them. They take their goods on board too, so they can always keep an eye on them. It takes time for everyone to find their place. People wait in the heat for the departure. There are always arguments about who sits where. On top, the driver's cab is the most comfortable place.
Hey, tell him to fix the water canister. The water canister. Take it off there and fix it here.
Whenever possible, Diadje and Sekou drive in a convoy. That way, the drivers can help each other out in the event of an accident or breakdown. Some latecomers arrive who also want to travel. The drivers wait for them. They depend on every single customer. As long as Diadje and Sekou don't arrive too late at the next station, no one will complain. For now, everyone is glad that the trucks are finally moving. even if there are initial difficulties. The passengers are stoic about the fact that the trucks drive too closely to the trees and they get hit by branches. If they were going any faster, this could cause serious injuries. The trucks struggle through the savannah like swaying ships. The land is dusty and dry. Strangers would get lost on these trails, as there are no signposts showing which dirt track leads where and when. Sekou knows the region like the back of his hand. Even so, he has to concentrate.
If you have a full load, for example, there are people sitting on top of that. You have to be careful how you drive, because they could be sleeping. If they doze off, don't hold on, and the car tips to one side, they could fall off. And they could also fall off in bends if you go too fast.
The passengers who sit on the edge have to make sure the hard spikes of the thorn bushes don't hit them in the face. Their eyes are smarting, and their strength is waning. The heat and the dust make you tired. But the people watch out for each other. After all, they're all not in the same boat, but on the same truck.
If you get on and don't hold on properly, you fall off. That's why we sit close together. You have to hold on to someone else who will hold on to another person. If there are too many people, that's no good. Why did I get on the truck? Because the driver is careful. Also, because the road is not good. The driver is responsible for me, and he's driving slowly.
Abdoulaye Dembélé has stopped his minibus for a break in Dia, a small village along the dirt track. Some of the passengers have got off, and new ones get on to get to the market. It's up to the drivers to make sure they have enough customers. There are a lot of minibuses competing, and word gets around which car is more comfortable and faster, and which vehicle always breaks down. Careful and responsible driving also matters, but above all, people who use minibuses as a means of transport are in a hurry. It's important for Abdoulaye to arrive safely. The paths themselves are packing a punch, and he doesn't want to take additional risks by driving carelessly.
It is normal on the bad paths that there are no petrol stations along the way, and they take long. You need the entire day just for one way. You can't go back and forth twice. You can only drive one way in one day because the way is so difficult.
Through the cracks, dust gets into the minibus. It gets into everything, including the passengers' pores. There is more dust than air to breathe. The temperature rises to almost 60 degrees. Your skin dries out. There's no escape. Grit your teeth and hold on.
hardship, all because of the bad roads. The drivers also have problems. It's slippery everywhere because they refuse to upgrade the roads. If the roads were good, many mishaps wouldn't happen. But this is part of our work as traders. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be traveling here.
In places where hardly anyone travels, and vehicles rarely break the savannah's silence with their noise, there is hustle and bustle on market days. It's rush hour on Mali's dirt tracks. The roads are full of people and their animals. Since the dirt tracks are not made for a lot of vehicles, dicey situations occur again and again.
Did you see, when he went by us so closely, we bent forwards to protect ourselves from the dust. That's why we fear the car. Horse and carts are better. We don't like cars. They get up to a lot of nonsense. We drive very slowly. I'm afraid of cars.
Since minibuses and trucks started driving on the dirt tracks along with the donkey and horse carts, there have been more accidents. The different speeds don't go together well. The horses are spooked because they're not used to having cars speed past them like lightning. They are used to a different pace. Life in the savannah has a more leisurely rhythm than life in the city. For these people, a horse and cart is still the most affordable means of transport. It doesn't need a petrol station or garage. Minibuses are a threat to this infrastructure.
There is competition between us, absolutely. They don't want us to transport people. If everyone can make some money, that's good. But they want to take all our passengers, and we're left with nothing. That's the way it is.
The horse and donkey carts are still in the majority. The horse and cart approaches Dionjori, where there's a market day today. The passengers on the two trucks have also arrived in Dionjori after the trip through the bushland. Diadje is relieved every time the transport goes smoothly. Although the villages are not far from each other, 20, 30 or 50 kilometers at the most, traveling through the wasteland is tiring even for seasoned lorry drivers. As soon as the lorries arrive, they are unloaded. The market only lasts for a few hours, so traders and customers want to make full use of them. The drivers would like a break, but Diadje and Siku have to inspect their lorries. They know that some things need repairing. Abdullah has also arrived in Dionjori with his minibus. He helps the passengers get out. Happy customers are important to him. He hopes that his guests value his helpfulness and friendly manner and will travel with him again. The Dionjori market is right on the river Niger. In the dry season, it can only be reached over land. Since there are no shops in most of the villages, people have to go to the markets. It's one of the few opportunities to do business and get the necessary supplies. Diadje and Seku's apprentices only fix things they have a knack for. Usually that's the small stuff. Screws that have got loose from vibration, or the bonnet that won't close. Since the lorries are old, something always needs fixing.
When you've been driving for a week, you need to check the entire car. We were supposed to rest today. But if we did, it wouldn't be good. We need to check the car. What happened on the trip? Where did something get torn off? What's come loose? We need to maintain it all the time.
On the last trip, there was a problem with the starter. DRG suspects that there's an issue with the alternator. Together with his apprentice, he goes to a garage on the edge of the market to have it checked. Only larger villages have mechanics. If DRG's lorry breaks down in the bush, he's out on his own. DRG knows his lorry's kinks and glitches very well. Before he goes out on the dirt track again tomorrow, he wants to make sure that his truck is in a good state. The market finishes in the early evening. People are going home. The wind blowing the dust across the savannah has died down. Temperatures will cool off overnight, but only for a few hours. DRG has taken some customers and their goods to a remote village before sunrise. He's traveling in the land of the Pearl, a tribe of cattle farmers who live as nomads all over Western Africa. The Pearl roam the savannah with their cattle, always looking for food for their animals. Except for animals and a few shepherds, DRG meets no one. If his truck breaks down now, he will be alone with his apprentice, a helper, and a few passengers. There's no mobile reception for getting help. It's an eerie emptiness.
There are no mechanics, no garages, no spare parts depots along the way. If we break down, we need to fix it ourselves. Sometimes there are highwaymen. That can be scary. It's happened to me twice. They made people get off the car and had them lie down on the ground. They searched their pockets and took off. They let everyone go on. They didn't kill anyone. They didn't even shoot their guns. They just shoot the air, threaten you, take the money and disappear again.
Today, bandits are not the problem. DRG feels that something is wrong with the truck's chassis. He calls his apprentice to check what's wrong.
I'll get off. Move the prop shaft a bit. Oh, just shake it a bit and check it. Look at the back. Twist the prop shaft to and fro. In the center. Check the center. What's it like? Still working? If it's still okay, that's fine. We'll change the ball bearings when we get there. Do we continue? We're off.
Although his apprentice didn't find anything, DRG wants to be on the safe side. He prefers to trust his instincts and experience instead of assuming that the ball bearings of the prop shaft will hold out.
Not 2 weeks go by without us having to weld something. These trucks are old. We weld something on every trip. You set off and something breaks and you need to change the spring.
Didier and Sekou drive a legendary French vehicle, a Bélier lorry. Even though production stopped over 30 years ago, Sekou can't think of a better lorry for the desert and the savannah.
This Bélier is my 5th one. The 5th! We never sold any of them. We drive them until they break down. Only when they don't work anymore we'll buy a new one. The broken lorries are spare part stocks for this one. One of the broken ones is our pharmacy. If anything is missing here, we'll take it out of there and put it in here.
Back in town, Didier wants to get replacement ball bearings for his prop shaft. Since there is no supplier for parts like that, he checks one of Sekou's old Bélier lorries. It was left on the edge of a square. Didier and his apprentice check if the ball bearings really are better than the ones in his truck. The men are skeptical. Didier prefers to buy new ones. Didier would never take his truck to the next bigger town where there is a spare parts depot. He would be gone for days and his losses would be enormous. That's why he asks Abdoulaye.
The centre ball bearing's no good. We checked it and it's unusable. When you go to Jenny, can you get me one? No problem, I can bring you one. Will you make it to Messina? We'll make it to Messina. When I go to Jenna, I'll look for one for you.
Once a week is cleaning day. The lorries should shine in their old glory. It's a task for Didier's apprentice.
We wash the engine so it can recover. When there is a lot of dirt on it, it gets hot. That's why we remove the oil and everything, then it won't get so hot. And it can also happen that the engine is covered in dirt, and then a screw falls off somewhere and you can't even see it because of all the dirt. You see nothing.
The water from the river Niger inspires the men to clean especially thoroughly. And also because the whole process is a refreshment for them.
Oh man, that path is a disaster. Couldn't be any worse. Look, Osman, you start before sunrise and drive until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If there was a road with tarmac to Tenenku, we'd need no more than 2 hours. Yes, no more than 2 hours.
Before the trip can continue, a flat tire needs changing.
Are you done? Let's go. It's okay like this. Put it in. If the nuts don't go in easily, leave them. Your pettiness bothers me. You always keep a sharp eye on me. Do your job and let me do mine. You're making me nervous here.
It's late before the lorries can leave. For the drivers, it's not a problem. They can camp anywhere. But first, they have to take their passengers home. The advantage of driving at night is that the air cools down. Besides, the lorries can go faster. In the beam of their headlights, they can make out potholes and ditches more easily. Sekou, Diadje and Abdoulaye have made camp in the middle of the savannah with their colleagues. They feel at home here and enjoy their trucker lives. It's been a long day. They're hungry. It'll be a quick meal. The men talk about their vehicles, the state of the dirt tracks and the weather. During the dry season, they are on the road day and night, even at the weekend. In those 7 months, they earn the money for the entire year. A few hours of sleep, and they start again. Early in the morning, it's already getting hot again. It hasn't rained in months. Lots of villages in the savannah are far away from the important transport routes. For those people, it's a blessing to have a lorry come to them once a week. This way, they can shop at the faraway market. Sekou personally makes sure that every passenger pays up. The fare is equivalent to about 50 cents. Not a lot for the almost hour-long trip, but for people who have very little, it's a lot of money. Sekou will take anyone who wants to come along. There is no maximum number of people who can find space on the truck. The people wouldn't get to the market without the lorry. Sekou is proud of the fact that he is indispensable for the inhabitants of the region.
As far as the roads are concerned, my father built himself a reputation in his day. Then I came along and, thank God, was able to build up a reputation too. My father's car, where it didn't go, no market could develop, and I'm the same. Where I can't go, no other car can go. There won't be a market. I've really made my mark.
The donkey cart means that the market is not far now. For most people, market days are the only distraction in the everyday travels. What people in other places take for granted, like shopping and selling the bare necessities, becomes a major exertion and fight for survival in Mali's savannah. People have to travel for an entire day to get a few tomatoes, fruit, some noodles, the occasional piece of meat, and a bar of soap.
The road means great discomfort for anyone on such a trip around here. The road's not good. The way people get on the truck, and we're standing on our feet from one place to the next. It's great agony. Your legs don't get any relief. That's what makes it so hard.
Abdoulaye sets out to cross the Niger. At this time of year, The river is a mere stream compared with its size after the rainy season. In some places then, it gets so broad you can't see the other side. Abdullah wants to get the ball bearing for Diage's lorry in Jenin. The town is 150 kilometers away. The Niger is like a border. On the other side of the river, the vegetation is lusher and the roads are paved. Driving a taxi is no dream job for Abdullah. He does it to feed his family.
I'm the oldest and have 3 younger brothers. They put all their hopes in me. Abdullah. If someone gets ill, I step up. If someone needs something, I step up. That's why I came to Tenenkul to work. I've never seen anyone from the town who goes to work in the village or bush. If they see me here driving in the bushland, I'll be poorly off.
Tarmac roads of the bigger towns tempt people to drive faster, so accidents happen. A lorry loaded with tons of corn wanted to overtake another truck and spun out of control. Since there was little traffic at night, there wasn't a pileup. The drivers were lucky. They got off with minor injuries. Abdullah has reached Jenin with its marvelous clay mosque. In the town centre, right on the main square, he knows of a trader who stocks spare parts for Bélier lorries.
I need a ball bearing. What kind of ball bearing? One for our Bélier lorry. This is a ball bearing for the center. How much is it? Give me 5,000 for it. Oh, big brother, 5,000's a lot for that. Times are tough around here. I think 5,000's a good price. Let's not ramble on. Let's agree on 4,000 now. Oh, my dear man. Give it to me for 4,000. You know we don't make much money with our old vehicles.
On the other side of the Niger, in the Massina region, Sekou and his lorry arrive at the market. His passengers have survived the journey pretty shaken but unscathed. They have only a few hours to look around and do business before they go back. Most of them know each other as they regularly take the lorry to the markets. But as they belong to different peoples who live in this area, they often don't speak the same language. Sekou is warmly welcomed by the village elders. They have known him since he was a boy and used to accompany his father here. Along the Niger, there are always markets. Big cattle markets are rather rare. From far away, as far as the Sahara, and neighboring countries, Mauritania and Niger, come the cattle traders. Often they travel for days and weeks to sell their livestock. The chances to do business are good, because the Pearl like to buy cattle, sheep and goats to restock their herds and flocks. Sekou, Diaje and their apprentices and helpers are sitting in the shadow of the lorries, waiting for the market to end. They're resting before the next trip. They're a community which sticks together.
For example, in the rainy season, a car can get stuck. Then it's easier when several people travel together. Also, when one of them breaks down, many people can help out. When the car doesn't start, you can help each other out, and when something else breaks down, you get together and fix it together.
The radiator is leaking. On the way back from Genève, Abdullah has problems with his minibus. A mechanic fixes the leak temporarily. If Abdullah wants to get to the agreed meeting point with Diadje in time, he has to hurry. Abdullah made it just in time, before Diadje sets out again.
Here, I got you this. Ah, that's it. That's exactly it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for trusting me.
Diadje doesn't have time to fit the ball bearing. He's running late already. He hopes that the prop shaft will last until the next stop. But first, the passengers need to take their places. The engine must be running, and none of the passengers must fall off the lorry. The dirt tracks have no beginning and no end. It's a never-ending circulation between the villages along the dirt tracks for many months. When the rainy season comes, they disappear until they reappear again, made by the drivers and their cars.
Oh no, it doesn't get boring. It's work. It's your livelihood. So you have to work. And everyone has their very own work. Understood? Day and night. It doesn't get boring. It's our work after all. And our work is this because we love it.
However well the drivers know the way, it will always be a trip into the unknown.
It's regarded as one of the most dangerous roads of the world, La Carretera de la Muerte, the road of death. Year after year, many people die here. Some go looking for adventure. Others depend on this road. For all of them, it's a risky ride. South America. Bolivia. Starting in Ixyamas, situated in the tropical lowlands, the road leads 500 kilometers up to the plateau of the Andes at almost 5,000 meters altitude. The destination is the megacity of La Paz. At the peak of the route, La Cumbra Pass, spiritual healers evoke La Pachamama, Mother Earth. Their shamanic powers are supposed to cast out negative, harmful energy. The shamans sacrifice their offerings to Pachamama. People are supposed to remember what they are doing to Mother Earth. Roads carve themselves into the soil like scars. The priests beg for forgiveness also for those driving on these roads. They want to protect them from accidents and harm. Omar Perea has been working as a truck driver for more than 20 years now. There is hardly a single road in Bolivia that he hasn't traveled. The road to La Paz is his home route. He transports timber from the jungle. His load weighs 25 tons. Without any incidents, the journey takes him 3 days. It's still his dry season at the end of October, so the road is quite dusty. In a few weeks, it'll start raining. The road will be drowned in mud and morass, and there is hardly any kind of movement possible. But for now, the drivers are fighting the stifling heat and the dusty air. Omar is driving quite fast. He's using the opportunity to make kilometers. His co-driver hardly knows the road. He wants to learn about its pitfalls from Omar.
There are dangers everywhere. You must not make mistakes. The truck could break down. There's a lot to be sorry about.
When you're on the road, anything can happen.
The truck is stuck. The wheels are spinning.
It's deep, really deep. Put it in there. In there. I have to see for myself.
Jaime is looking for holes in the ground and fills them up with stones.
On the other side, it's deep too. Put these leaves underneath.
The palm leaves supply the necessary grip. Only Omar's skill and the full force of the engine can help to get the vehicle out.
It rained in the morning. The road is muddy. The rain has made it worse. The wheels and the shaft have sunk in. That's why the truck wouldn't move. It was as if someone pulled the brakes.
Omar has to be especially careful with river courses. If water penetrated the engine, it would destroy it. The trip would be over before it even started. Only few roads that are passable for trucks lead through this sheer, endless jungle. The humidity of the tropical rainforest evaporates in misty clouds from the thicket. The truck feels its way through the wall of fog, only a few meters of visibility. A collision with an approaching vehicle would be fatal.
Jaime, there's always fog here. Always. You have to pay attention, you could get lost. We're losing a lot of time. We have to drive slow. We can't see a thing.
Baki lies on the banks of the Rio Beni, on the inflows of the Amazon River. Trucks are waiting to cross the river here. The ferry consists of a simple wooden pontoon. The pontonero instructs the truck drivers. The crossing takes half an hour, and only 2 trucks can go on at a time. Ferryman Guanera Rias is responsible for bringing trucks and people to the other side safely. He's been shipping the Rio Beni for many years now. He also knows when operations should come to a halt.
This river needs a certain level. You can't always cross. At high tide, the current will carry flotsam, wood and junk and everything that destroys the engines of the boats.
As soon as the ferry lands on the bank, Guanera Rias must anchor it tightly. Iron chains will make sure the pontoon doesn't break loose when the trucks embark. The raft consists of only 2 logs. They have to carry the weight of